Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. This is Brother Ijaz Ahmad of the Muslim Apologetics podcast. Today I'm here with two very special brothers, Brother Aqil and Brother Yahya. So, Brother Aqil, please introduce yourself.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone out there?
And Brother Yahya.
Greetings, everyone. Assalamu alaikum to all the Muslims.
Okay, guys, so today we have some pretty big news in the interfaith community. I'm not sure if people are aware of this, but there is a growing discord a public discord actually, between Sam Shamoun and Dr. James White. Now, where did this start? What happened? This problem began in March of 2016. So it almost dates back to almost exactly 1 year, where Sam Shamoun actually and his friends were bringing Dr. White in disrepute for having dialogues and debates with Brother Yusuf Ismail of South Africa. Essentially, because Brother Yusuf was not willing to engage with Sam Shamoun because of his behavior, Sam Shamoun began to attack Brother Yusuf and by extension Dr. White. Now, there was a patching up of that, and in November, December of 2016, again, Sam Shamoun began to attack Dr. White, this time because of a claim regarding Robert Morey's instruction in his book, where he thinks that it would be wise to destroy the Kaaba, and therefore if the Kaaba is destroyed, the entire Muslim religion will fall apart, Islam will cease to exist. Obviously, Dr. James White rebuked this. He completely thought it was silly, and unfortunately, as a consequence of him refuting Robert Morey's claim, you had Sam Shamoun coming out publicly since November of 2016 into December 2016 and eventually into January of 2017, making posts discrediting Dr. White. Now, Brother Aqil is here with me. So, Brother Aqil, on January the 24th of 2017, James White had his dialogue with Dr. Yasir Qadi in a church, and then they had it in a masjid. Can you give me your thoughts on that dialogue and why you think Sam Shamoun would be angry with Dr. James White for having that discussion?
Bismillah. The dialogue itself, I was very moved by it. I think it was a great benefit. I think it opened up the doors to real good civil dialogue in the interfaith platform, and I was very happy to see it on both sides, from Dr. Yasir Qadi and also from Dr. James White. So I think that this kind of dialogue is very essential, because what happens so often is that you have interfaith dialogues or debates, and they become at some point fruitless because of the way and the demeanor that they take place. But I think that this was actually a good discussion, and I think many people of sound judgment seen it for what it was and appreciated it. And why Sam Shamoun would look down upon us, I think that, Sam Shamoun has a history of being a bit imbalanced and not consistent, to use James White's vocabulary in this regards. And to have something like this, where both sides are explaining their faith without interruption, without disruption, without demonization, it's just, I think, not accustomed to how he likes to do business. And in light of that, and that it was successful, I think that maybe some jealousy or something occurred there and perpetuated him to come out and blast Dr. White on this event. But I actually praised the event and was very moved by it. I think it was very beneficial for both communities.
Okay, I completely agree with you, Brother Akil. From my perspective, all the way here in Trinidad and Tobago in the Caribbean, I thought that Dr. White and Dr. Cody had not only an educational dialogue, but something that would benefit the community. As you know, right now, many communities in North America regarding the political situation are uncertain about their safety, their sense of belonging. And so these dialogues actually brought a sense of calm, and it gave them some sort of pride to know, some sort of happiness and comfort to know that the communities in North America appreciated the Muslims. Unfortunately, we had individuals like Sam who did not seem to like that Dr. White invited a Muslim into a church to speak about Islam. I mean, according to Sam Shamoun, Dr. White doing that is pretty much inviting pagans or inviting infidels to bring a false religion into the church. But obviously, the people in the church can distinguish between what Dr. Cordy is saying and what Dr. White is saying. I don't think that Christians are fickle enough to sit down and come to a dialogue thinking that the Muslim is representing Christianity 100% accurately as they understand it. If you look at the screen right now, we actually have a comment, Sunny Blaze, writing responses to Dr. White. So on Brother Yusuf's Facebook page, there was a dialogue where Brother Yusuf shared the video with Dr. Khadi. And so Dr. James White commented on this post on Brother Yusuf's wall. And there was an individual called Sunny Blaze that was responding to Dr. White, criticizing him, etc. And what you see here is Sam Shamoun instructing Sunny Blaze on what to tell Dr. White. So you guys see this picture. I'm not making that up. You see here that Sam Shamoun is instructing Sunny Blaze what to tell White. As a consequence of this, in the very next photo, you'll see that James White actually mentions that there were Christians, the very same person, Sunny Blaze, calling churches and trying to get his events cancelled. What do you think about that comment by James White and that comment by Sam Shamoun, where he's trying to get one of Dr. White's events cancelled, Brother Aqil?
The thing that's interesting to me is the argument that Sam Shamoun is making that Dr. James White brought in Dr. Yasser Qadi to speak into a church. But I have received, and actually for those who are following, sometime last year, me and Sam Shamoun was trying to schedule a debate. And what had happened is that the schedule has scheduled the debate, which is completely out of my range. And this was made known from the very beginning. And then the debate scheduling got lost. But the point being is that Sam Shamoun was going to debate me in the church. So if he was willing to debate me in the church, then why is he now lambasting Dr. White for having a discussion with Dr. Qadi in the church?
He's saying that Dr. James White did not respond to what Dr. Cordy said regarding Christianity. He's saying that, if you can see the screenshot here, he's saying that Dr. Cordy did not refute or challenge what Cordy said. But again, this is assuming that the Christians in the audience will sit down there and honestly think that whatever Dr. Cordy says represents their faith accurately. Of course, they know that he's speaking from a Muslim perspective. And obviously, if anyone has seen the video, James White did actually mention, well, actually Christians believe this. He actually explained a little bit about Christianity. So I think the claim that Sam here is making is absolutely false. But beyond that, looking past that, what do you think about Sam Shamoun instructing this individual called Sunny Blaze to call churches and try to cancel James White events? Is that something what normal people do? Why doesn't he try to reach White in private? Why doesn't he try to have disagree but respect what he's doing? Why does he go so far as to meddle in his events and his public affairs? Why do you think he does that?
Well, I mean, this is the character of Sam Shamoun. It's not something foreign to him. And when you look at Sam Shamoun, even in his polemics against Islam and the Muslims, I mean, he takes very hypocritical approaches to how he deduces things from understanding from the Quran and the Sunnah. So we're not expecting Sam Shamoun really to be fair in these regards. Unfortunately, now I hope it's changed, and I mean, you know, this demeanor becomes something of the past, and he turns over a new leaf and work with people in a better fashion. But this is what we have been seeing from him for years. Also, in the debate, or the dialogue rather, because it was stressed to be a dialogue and not a debate, Dr. Yasser Qadi emphasized whenever he made a point that he said according to Muslims, he made this point that he's saying these things about Christianity, the difference we have, this is according to Muslims. And he even said in one of the first one or the second one, I forget which one it was, but he did mention that he's not an expert on Christianity. And because of that, he don't want to debate because this is not his expertise. And he mentioned that. So for any Christian to take what he said as if somehow James White is allowing him to define Christianity and not challenge him on it, I think it's unfair because he himself mentioned he's not an expert, And Dr. James White also mentioned in the beginning that this is a dialogue that we're going to be just hearing what the Muslims believe. So, I mean, all of that was put in the beginning, in the preset. And for those who missed it, I think they missed it intentionally. And they missed it with bad intentions. And I think it was just something they had to axe to grind against Dr. White. And they used this to accomplish their means.
I completely agree with you on that, but there is something I need to point out. Does Sam Shamoun think that the Christian crowd, that their faith is so weak that inviting a Muslim in to speak about Christianity, a Muslim who admits that he's not a scholar on Christianity, does he think that the Christian audience in a church is so weak in faith that if anyone comes in and speaks about Christ, that they'll change their beliefs? Is that what he's implying? Because that's what it looks like. Does he actually fear that when a Muslim speaks, Christians automatically convert? Because to me, that's what it seems like. What do you think, Brother Yahya?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think Sam Shamoun, or Sam Shamoun, I'm not entirely sure how you pronounce his name, but he has a very immature understanding of dialogue. He thinks if anything is said that is contrary to his beliefs, a Christian needs to basically fly off the handle and go into full frontal attack mode. And that's not necessarily the case, because if you go on the internet, any young Christian will encounter material that is against their faith. So what's Sam Shamoun going to suggest here? Is he going to suggest that no Christian goes on the internet, no Christian watches TV, no Christian reads a book by an atheist? There are going to be contrary views in today's society, especially in the Western world. He's not living in John Calvin's Geneva. He's not. He needs to recognize this and needs to adopt a more mature outlook, just like Dr. White has. Do you notice that Dr. White had no problems in trying to educate his flock as to what Islam actually teaches by bringing in a scholar? Likewise, vice versa for Dr. Qadi. Again, this is a mature understanding of one's religion and a mature understanding of one's flock.
I think one of the problems here is that Sam Shamoun seems to be stuck in an age that has gone past beyond him. Basically, he has not had the opportunity to experience that maturity. Again, Dr. White is actually a church leader. He's a church elder, and he speaks in many churches. He leads many churches. He has a large congregation. And so not only is he a church leader, he's also a community leader. And in that sense, he understands the social responsibility in representing the members of your community fairly. He does not see Islam as one monolithic faith. There are many people with many interpretations, and he accepts this. So Sam Shamoun seems to be stuck in a world like the Chronicles of Narnia, where in his quote unquote reality, you must represent Islam as this one thing. You can't see it as a multifaceted object. You can't think that it has different angles, different interpretations, which seems a bit silly to me, because even in Christianity, it's not a monolithic faith. You have sects and subsects. You have different interpretations. So this is clearly a difference between someone who's a bit more educated and mature and someone who is drastically lesser educated, if not barely educated and immature. Now, in front of us, we have another screenshot. Can you read out this screenshot for me, Brother Aqil?
I had no contact with him. Asked Yasser Qadi if he would be willing to debate me. Make sure he knows who I am first, i.e. chief writer of www.answeringislam.net and a co-host of the satellite show Jesus or Muhammad, which can be found on YouTube.
Now, here's the problem, right? I think that Sam Shamoun is jealous of Dr. White having this discussion with Dr. Qadi, because Dr. Qadi is a mainstream Islamic scholar. Anyone who thinks about Islam in the American context will probably look between Dr. Qadi and and Numan Ali Khan. These are two very popular names. So Dr. White is actually elevating his status into a mainstream commentator on religious topics by interacting with Dr. Qadi. Now, unfortunately here, as you can see in the screenshot, Sam says that he's the chief writer of answeringislam.net. I've checked answeringislam.net, and they don't mention him as the chief writer. So clearly he's trying to give himself some sort of credentials so Dr. Qadi would interview him or dialogue with him. But what makes it worse is that on January 27th of 2017, he says that he is a co-host of the satellite show Jesus or Muhammad. Now here's the problem, and I want Brother Yahya to answer this for me. When last was Sam Shamoun a co-host of that show?
Just to touch on this, before I go into this answer, Darren Day, I don't believe he is one of Sam Shamoun's guys. I think he's just a neutral in this. I really think that Sam Shamoun is just trying to use anybody and everybody here. But yeah, it's a great point about ABN. He hasn't been on there for at least a year. And remember, he ended it with that controversy where he started challenging the trustworthiness of Basim Goriel, the owner of that station. He basically said, don't go and give your money to that organization. They're not trustworthy. So he started questioning their sincerity and all of a sudden use their brand to try and prop himself up. He's whistling in the wind. And he's using dishonest means because he has no link to ABN now. He's burnt his bridges. So that's a great observation.
Now, what makes it worse is that in this screenshot, someone notices that. So the very next day on the 28th, someone asks him, hey Sam, what happened between you and ABN? And what does Sam do? Contact me in private. So he makes a claim in public, oh, I'm the co-host of a show on this channel. And the very next day, someone is like, hey, Sam mentions he's on that channel, but I don't see him anymore. And what does Sam say? Oh, contact me in private. But we both know, I think all of us here know, that Sam Shamoun has not been on ABN since December 2015, when he was fired. And he waited something like 8 months into the year of 2016 to claim that ABN TV had adopted false doctrines and that they were working now with Joel Osteen and that they were misusing donation money, all of these things. So he's been fired. He's not there for about a year. Then he claims, that they're following a false doctrine, a false gospel, and that they're misusing financial donations. And then he goes on to say, hey, if you're going to talk to Dr. Qadi, tell him I work at this station. Is that not the height of hypocrisy and deceptiveness? What do you think, Brother Yahya?
Yeah, I think this is awfully problematic to Sam Shamoun. He needs to make a public statement on this. I'm just seeing huge problems. I don't see how he can justify his statement. It seems like he is not being upfront completely here, and he needs to obviously justify that statement.
Okay, guys, so in front of us, we're looking at I think what is the most controversial screenshot of this entire incident between Dr. White and Sam Shamoun. So this is the screenshot on the 29th of January, almost a week ago, where an individual on Sam's public Facebook page refers to Dr. White as an apostate. And what does Sam Shamoun do? Does Sam Shamoun delete the comment? No. Does he ban the person? No. Does he respond in the comments rebuking the person? No. What does he do? Sam Shamoun likes the comment. He likes the comment referring to Dr. White as an apostate. So can you give me your opinion on that, Brother Aqil?
If we look at this idea of jealousy, it has very serious consequences. And not only for Sam Shamoun, but anybody who is possessed by and overtaken by a sense of jealousy. Even in Islam, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, like, be careful of hasad, be careful of this jealousy, because it eats your good deeds like fire eats wood. So I think what happened in the apologetic community amongst the Christians, this circle, Sam Shamoun had kind of elevated and once had a status that people looked at him and respected him as being like maybe the one. Even Dr. White mentioned that from amongst apologists, Sam Shamoun was the one who knew the source text of Islam back and forth, and he praised Sam Shamoun in the past. So I think people seen Sam Shamoun as somebody to refer to as a type of authority when it came to apologetics in Islam. And I think as time went on, he got exposed and it seemed to lose that status. People started to see him for what he was, videos was made, he was exposed, and then he began to lose that. And James White took a higher road. Not only was he debating reputable people, scholars and educated people, but this thing with Dr. Yasser Qadi took it to another level. And I think it kind of just it tipped over Sam Shamoun to a degree where he really couldn't control himself anymore. And I think that all of his actions are kind of predicated behind this. There's another hadith the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he mentioned about anger, and how we should refrain from acting in the act of rage or anger, because shaitan can literally take you to wherever he wants you to go because of your frustration and your anger. So I think, we need to, advise Sam Shamoun with some of these Islamic medicine, as we have in our teachings, to help him learn how to be a better individual. And maybe he can have better relations with his own brethren in faith, Dr. White and others, because I don't think it's just Dr. White. I think there's other people that he's also losing ground with and losing his circle. So I believe even him and David Wood are at it now, at odds, from what I'm hearing, if that's true. So I think his career is really dwindling, and there's a lot of haze around him. And these actions, I think, just comes from something inside of him that's just not right. Every situation we bring up can go back to just his internal state, which is really not sound. And may Allah guide him. We pray for guidance for him. He's not, our favorite individual, obviously, amongst the Muslim community, but still we want guidance for everybody. And we pray Allah guides him and open his heart to something better than what he's upon. Because if this is what, Christianity does for him, then it's not really doing much.
Okay, and can you comment on the apostate comment and Sam's liking of it?
Yeah, for him to, excommunicate, so to say, Dr. White for this event, or claim somehow that Dr. White is different from how he believed when him and Sam was friends. Again, it's just highlighting his hypocrisy. I don't think at all that Dr. White has expressed anything different that he expressed or believed or propagated prior to this event with Dr. Yasser Qadi, when him and Dr. White was friends and they were actually on shows together, and Dr. White was praising him. He didn't mention anything about him apostating. And there's nothing in Dr. White history that he changed or evolved or left certain beliefs that he had prior to. So now, all of a sudden, why would Sam Shamoun accuse Dr. White of apostating and going into an area that's unacceptable if it wasn't for some other ulterior motive that Sam Shamoun had?
Okay, and Yahya, can you give me your view on this issue?
Yeah, I think Dr. White would have been awfully felt let down by Sam Shamoun liking that comment, to be excommunicated, or to even, have your faith questioned by your own, is just so hurtful. But Sam Shamoun is in that mode right now, and Dr. White said, stay away from him. And I'd advise Muslims to do the same as well. Dr. White's advice is sound, because right now he's on this rampage trying to accuse Dr. White, Richard Pierce, J.D. Hall of being responsible for the suicide of Ergun Kayner's son. Now, whatever happened in Ergun Kayner's household has nothing, absolutely nothing to do with J.D. Hall, Dr. White, Richard Pierce. This is just malice. I know that David Wood tried the same approach with J.D. Hall a few months ago. He made the same comments. But this is just the way that side of polemics, that side of Christian polemicists operate. They want to really demonize the other. They do it with the Muslims. Is it really any surprising to see them do it with their own? I don't know. What else can we say? It's shocking. To be honest, Sam Shamoun's been doing this for years when it comes to his interactions with Muslims. So I'm not surprised, but I agree with Aqil. We do need to pray for the guy. For the Christians, for the serious-minded Christians, I want to say this to you. If you believe you have the Holy Spirit in you, isn't this not just self-refuting? You have characters like Sam Shamoun, David Wood, Christian Prince, doing what they do, yet they claim to have the Holy Spirit in them. And we're looking at them thinking, hold on, you guys are refuting yourselves. And you guys, serious-minded Christians, must be able to see it. I know Dr. White can see this, and he's made really, really potent comments just recently that many Muslims have clipped. I know Muslim by Choice has clipped, I've clipped, Calling Christians have clipped these comments. Muslims and Christians need to see this, and it brings people together. And there's nothing else to say on the matter, really.
Well, there is something to say, and we can look at Sam Shamoun's comment here. But I just need to point out, if you do hear music in the background, I am not at a nightclub. Wink, wink. It's carnival time here in Trinidad, so you're gonna hear lots of loud music in the background. I apologize for that, but that's how the culture is here. But looking at this comment on the screen, look what Sam says here. It actually speaks to what both of you had said. He says, I used to promote his work and considered him a friend. Because of that, I bit my tongue for years, even though I saw how nasty and arrogant he acted towards his fellow brothers and sisters. I can't ignore his vile spirit and arrogance anymore. Look at that comment. He says for years he has not spoken out about James White, and he actually refers to him as nasty and vile. Now, as Muslims, he's probably called all three of us nasty and vile thousands of times at this point. He probably mutters that under his breath every time he thinks about us. But when it comes to Dr. James White, he actually says he's bit his tongue for years. But now that the tides have changed, he can't bite his tongue any longer. What does this comment say about Sam Shamoun? What do you think, Brother Yahya? Does this confirm our suspicions? Does it confirm what Brother Aqil has said?
I just want to say that Sam Shamoun has no credibility. So whatever he's saying about Dr. White now and his claims of holding his tongue, it has no credibility. He's obviously lashing out. And this claim of holding his tongue, didn't he not do the same thing with Basim Goriel? He has a fallout with Basim Goriel, and then all of a sudden he's been holding his tongue for years. And then he comes out with claims that Basim Goriel is misappropriating funds. That's essentially what he said. And I did do a few Google searches a few months ago on ABN's finances. That organization is turning in about $1 million each year, or perhaps it was a month. I'd imagine it was a year. And that's a lot of money for somebody like that, an ex-employee, to come out, make those claims about their trustworthiness when it comes to finances, and then all of a sudden go quiet. It's reckless. It's reckless. He's not even going to go back to it. He's gone quiet on it. Maybe he wants to get back in with ABN. It just shows how insincere he is. And I'd imagine if Dr. White throws an olive branch to Sam Shamoun right now, Sam Shamoun will go quiet, drop all this, and take up that olive branch. I don't know if Dr. White gave him a platform on the dividing line. Sam Shamoun will go quiet. This is what I think anyway. Obviously, this is all speculation, but none of what Sam Shamoun does makes any sense because he acts in haste and he doesn't act in rationality. He's very irrational.
Well, Brother Yahya, it isn't speculation because, as I recall, in March of 2016, both of you and I saw that he actually attacked Dr. White for associating with Brother Yusuf Ismail. He made a couple of Facebook posts about it, and then he and Dr. White, worked it out behind the scenes, and it was silence about Dr. White until November when Dr. White criticized Robert Morey. So it's absolutely true. He goes silent when it works out in his favor, and he goes public when it doesn't go in his favor. And as you can see at the screenshot I have here, look, he says, can you contact me privately? So here he says in public, all he says is ABN is history. He doesn't say that ABN is a corrupt place and I left. He does not say that ABN is misusing donation funds. All he says is ABN is history. He doesn't speak about it again. I wonder why that is. Now, slightly moving on from this, we do need to come back to this point here. What did Sam do when he began to disagree with Dr. White? We can see in the screenshots in front of us that he actually called for James White to step down. And he says that's because White is not in his senses. He goes on to say that his followers on his Facebook page should spam the Dr. White's Facebook page. Not only that, he actually calls people out and demands that they run to White's page and scold him and throw down the gauntlet. What does that say about him? He even refers to White as treating fellow Christians as ungracious, uncharitable, and behaving in a childish manner. What do you think about what we've discussed so far, Brother Aqil?
I see this behavior in light of the culture that we see ourselves in. This is the Jerry Springer culture. And if people understand where I'm coming from, it's the gossip, it's the drama, it's this what gets everybody attention. People like this phenomena. And Sam Shamoun fits right into this prototype of this Jerry Springer character. And I think that's kind of how he runs his, if he has his own ministry or his followers or his pal talk group, whatever it is. These kind of individuals, they like the drama. They have something has to go on. It's not just teaching their faith, but it always has to be some kind of conflict happening. And what happened is that the Muslims boycotted Sam Shamoun because of his behavior. So when he wasn't able to debate Muslims and have a platform with the Muslims, and then he launched a platform at ABN where he can spew his, his rhetoric and stuff like that against Islam. Now he's looking for something. He's not debating any Muslims, so he can't really bring the Muslims up and say, I debated this person or refuted so-and-so. So now he's turning his venom on his own kind, on his own brethren. And he's attacking James White. And this is interesting also because his mentor, Christian Prince, just got finished going through a tirade some months ago also about James White. So you have to consider, are they behind the scenes plotting against James White somehow? Christian Prince would come, and then after he finished, here comes Sam Shamoun, go back and forth, attacking James White, who James White will run rings around both of them as relates to their Christian faith. But because he's reputable and he has a respect for people and Muslims deal with him because of that, I think, again, going back to the idea of jealousy, they're lacking that, and they want to get in. They want to be in the mix. They want to be the talk of the town, or so. There's a lot of undertones that's happening, and I think that if we can get to those things, we can understand and why we see so many of these comments and so many of the behavior, so much of behavior that's happening from Sam Shamoun, David Wood, and the likes of these guys. There's something internal that's really happening, or that's not happening, so to say, for these guys, and we should have pity on them, and again make dua for them. But this behavior of theirs against their own kind, and against Dr. White in particular, saying these things and accusing him of these accusations and stuff, it's very deep. It's a deep current there, and this is why even Muslims have abandoned him. And this is also, I think we're going to maybe look at this, but this is something that reason why we are refraining from engaging him in a debate as he desire.
Now, Brother Aqil, feel free to correct me here, but in this screenshot in front of us, we see Sam Shamoun referring to a Christian Prince as a top-notch Christian apologist. However, is it true? And I've seen the discussion myself, but I'd like you to confirm it. What does he say about CP in private to you versus what he says about him in public?
Well, for many, they know that me and Christian Prince had a recent debate on the 19th of January. The 29th, I'm sorry, the 29th of January. And many seen how the debate went. There was a format. There was supposed to be a civil, discussion debate between us on two topics. And it went south pretty fast. I felt like I was babysitting. Unfortunately, a group of 5-year-olds who had diarrhea. Like they were just all over the place. That's how I felt, trying to engage with Christian Prince in his debate. But it went sour, and it became a shouting match. And I regret that it went that far, but I know that I couldn't leave the debate because I agreed to a format, and I wanted to at least fulfill that aspect of it. But I wasn't happy with how the debate was going and what it turned into. I was being muted. I was being cut off. But people seen it for what it was. And afterwards, Sam Shamoun reached out to me and mentioned that he was dissatisfied with how it went, how it turned out, and was unhappy that the results of the end was what it was. So I'm sure, and he also made a follow-up video trying to refute me on my positive statement against the idea of the divinity of Jesus in the Bible. Something that Christian Prince failed and ran from the entirety of the debate. He just refused to deal with that aspect. And I think this is because his ignorance of Christianity itself. We don't find any of his videos he's teaching the faith of the Christians. Rather, everything is attacking Islam, attacking Islam, attacking Islam. But Sam Shamoun did express his dissatisfaction with how the debate went, and invited us, me and him, to a civil discussion, and not one that's geared towards just going back and forth and shouting. So I was happy to hear that comment from him. I was happy to hear him reach out with that demeanor, because we also had some words in the past. But he did express his dissatisfaction with how the debate went, and he did indicate that there was some fault there on the side of Christian Prince as well. He told me myself, that also I should back away or not, continue to engage. But he did express that.
So here we see Sam Shamoun making one claim in public and another claim in private. Now, what's interesting is that Sam Shamoun has the same behavior as Christian Prince. He's aggressive, he's insulting, he tries to demean his opponents. So Sam Shamoun is asking you to stay away from CP for the very same behavior that Sam Shamoun has. How does that logic work?
Well, again, I mean, this is why many Muslims do. Now, for those who know what Aqil and our channel Radush Shubuhaat do, we don't claim to take the scholarly approach, meaning that you have people that's of high repute in Islamic community and apologetics, and their character and their position demands that they have a platform that's consistent with their repute. I mean, they're reputable and honorable, distinguished individuals, decked with many honors and degrees. But myself, I see that there is a necessity to deal with some of the lower class individuals that's attacking Islam. And this is the reason why I decided to try to engage in a debate with Christian Prince. But as many say that, we should refrain from it. The way the debate went, people say, see, we should refrain because it just turned into nothing but, just a shouting match and vilification and, demonization. So, to go forward in these kind of activities, it doesn't mean we're not going to refute them, but to engage them when this is all they have to offer, then we find it better to not engage them if this is all they can bring to the table.
Brother Aqil, so will you be debating Sam Shamoun? Will you be accepting his offer?
At this point, we're declining to accept the offer for a debate with Sam Shamoun. We considered it and we're looking at it, but I think that we have reached the point where, considering what's going on right now, considering the cloud that's around Sam Shamoun and what's happening, and then also in light of not really getting from these type of people civility in a debate, but rather just vilification of Islam, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, with no respect, it's very difficult for us to engage in that kind of activity and really be fruitful. If we could assure that something along those lines, a debate, it would be respectful and it would be honorable, then we would. As we have a debate coming up with a gentleman from Canada named Chris Claus. I heard nothing but good things about him from the Muslim community as well as the Christian community. So we're looking forward to engaging in these type of debates. But when you have ill repute character and that's known for that and consistent, then I'm really reluctant to continue to engage in activity, because at the end of the day, it's fruitless. It really is. So
All
we're
right, brother.
declining in a very, respectable way at this point, until we see something better, and until this thing kind of removes itself from whatever in situation he's involved in right now with his Christian brethren. We're refraining and removing ourselves from continuing to look at any debates with Shimon at the moment.
Okay, so that's your decision. I have to respect it, but I do need to ask you one final question before you leave, and that is, if Dr. James White was listening right now, what would you tell him?
I would say, we thank him for his years of trying to be consistent, although at sometimes James White, appeared to be a bit inconsistent. But nevertheless, I think that this was something that he tried to maintain, and it is a difficult thing. So we the Muslims, I believe, and I can say this for many of the comments I see from the Muslims, we have a respect for James White, unlike many other the Christian apologists that's out there. So first, we appreciate that and we commend you for that, Mr. White. Second of all, as relates to the event with Dr. Yasser Qadi, this is another thing that we commend you for and thank you for. It was definitely needed. It was definitely beneficial. And despite what the blowback or the feedback he got from people in his own camp of Christians, it was something that hasn't been seen on such an academic level. And I think that this is where people, particularly San Shamoun, the jealousy really hit. That here's somebody that's of high caliber coming and having a civil discussion, and he called like Dr. Yasser called it to a debate. He refused to debate James White. Why would he accept to debate Sam Shamoun? I mean, it's like nonsensical, So I would say, Dr. James White, you have a ministry, you have a big following. I mean, you do whatever you do. Your beliefs are not ours. We don't agree with you in those beliefs, and we would, like to discuss these beliefs with you as relates to your belief in, the deity of Jesus, as we don't believe that. But nonetheless, I mean, you have, a ministry that you're doing and it's productive. Continue on, and I don't think that to waste the time with Sam Shamoun and to sidetrack that and burden your audience with this garbage is necessary for him. But we do call him to Islam. We do, invite him, to look at carefully what Dr. Yasser Qadi mentioned about the beliefs of the Muslims and accept it. I mean, because salvation depends upon it. But this is his affair. This is his choice, and we pray that Allah guides him as well. But that would be my advice to Dr. White as relates to his affair with Sam Shamoun or Christian Prince or the likes of these guys. You look at what Dr. White has produced. You look at what he has, and then look at what Christian Prince has, or Sam Shamoun has, and then it's obvious. These guys have nothing but power talk rooms, no serious following. Their followings are really vile and like just despicable people who say the most heinous and disrespectful things. And then you look at the ministry of James White. It's a big difference. And I think that in itself is a token enough for him to move on past these little guys.
All right, so Brother Aqil, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your comments. Inshallah, we'll be hearing and seeing you on February the 18th with your debate with Chris Close from Canada. I look forward to that. Assalamu alaikum, Brother Aqil.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, Ijaz, and also to you, Brother Yahya. And yes, we do have the debate, actually two, on the 18th and the 19th with Chris Claus, two topics, inshallah. We look to see you all there. Take care and appreciate the time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam, Brother Aqil. So turning now to Brother Yahya very quickly. Brother Yahya, if Dr. James White was listening to us right now, what would you have to say to him?
I'd encourage Dr. White to pursuing dialogue with scholars, reputable scholars like Dr. Qadi. Hopefully he can make that an annual event. That's what the community really needs right now. We need understanding, and we need this a lot more than debate. Debates have their purposes, but they do cause more friction than dialogues. And right now, there's already too much friction between Muslims and Christians. Let's have some dialogue.
All right, guys, thank you for joining myself, Brother Aqil, and Brother Yahya today. Inshallah, we look forward to seeing you for the debate that we're hosting between Brother Aqil and Chris Claus on the 18th and 19th of February. That's this month. Assalamu alaikum, and look out for us next time.